InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcast, looking at cannabis news, stocks to watch, as well as insights from thought leaders and experts. In today's podcast, it's going to be looking at a few basic public company announcements from SUGR Craft Growers Corporation, trading on the TSX Venture as SUGR, AVCN Incorporated, trading on the TSX as AVCN and the OTCQX as AVCNF. THC Biomed International Limited, trading on the CSE as THC, as well as Canada House Wellness Group Incorporated, trading on the CSE as CHV. First, starting with SUGR Craft Growers Corporation, who announced that it's received approval from Health Canada for its amended sales license permitting the sale of dried cannabis products. SUGR is now able to directly sell its portfolio of exceptional craft cannabis products to all authorized provincial and territorial distributors, retailers, as well as registered medical patients. Today's announcement represents yet another pivotal milestone for SUGR as we continue to scale up our commercial activities and build overall shareholder value for our company, stated SUGR CEO John Kondrowski. Now, our amended sales license now gives us the ability to take direct control of our own sales and marketing activities and further accelerate and expand the distribution of our core craft cannabis dried flower and pre-roll products into new target provinces such as Alberta and BC, continued Mr. Kondrowski. Now, the company estimates that less than 30% of all the active federally approved license holders process a sales license permitting the sale of dried cannabis to authorized provincial and territorial distributors and retailers, as well as registered medical patients. Receipt of our amended sales license is significant as the result of a successful comprehensive inspection process, and it's a testament to our day-to-day operational readiness and unwavering commitment to the compliance, as much as to the hard work, dedication, and passion that our employees continue to demonstrate each and every day, concluded Mr. Kondrowski. Now, SUGR products are currently available in the provinces of Saskatchewan under the terms and conditions of the previously announced licensing and distribution agreement with AgroGreens Natural Products Limited. So SUGR now able to access all the provincial retailers and distributors, again focusing more so on the craft, dry herb, and pre-rolled market. And you're now starting to see really, this will be in line with most of the announcements coming out today, which is you're starting to see a lot of licenses get granted now, a little bit of the Health Canada backlog that you were seeing over the last 4 to 5 months seems to be unwinding right now, and you're seeing a lot of these licenses get granted either for next generation products or for new product sales agreements, or really just anything that any of these companies have been waiting for the last couple of months. So obviously it's a good sign that the industry is sort of getting rid of its backlog and is actually sort of starting up again in some sense of normalcy. And also, SUGR this just goes to show that there is going to be more and more competition coming from more the craft side of the industry. I do think, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast before, that is going to be where you're going to see the Canadian industry really level out and sort of establish itself as with a series of craft growers, probably province to province. You're going to see specific products really gain weight within some of these provinces based off of that particular area's consumer demands. And I do think that it's going to be much more of a micro cultivator environment than a large scale cultivator environment. We've seen the lack of success from most of those large scale LPs, and that really the best brands and the best products that they're producing are all coming from their craft partnerships anyways. So again, similar to what you've seen in the beer industry is really what I expect to see in the cannabis industry overall. And them getting their amended license today is kind of in line with that thinking and in line with that trend. Next, looking at AVCN Incorporated, who announced that through a majority-owned subsidiary, Santa Marta Golden Hemp SAS, the company has completed exports of CBG and CBD isolates into the U.S., CBD isolate into Germany, and the commencement of a pilot tracking system for the export of its active pharmaceutical ingredient products in partnership with True Trace Technologies, trading on the CSE as TTT and the OTCQB as TTTSF. The company has also announced that the Colombian Ministry of Justice and Law has granted SMGH a commercial and industrial cultivation quota for 12,264 THC plants. Now, the export and sale of the commercial lot of isolated CBG into the U.S. was completed in parallel with commercial export of isolated CBD into the U.S., as well as a pilot export and R&D purposes of CBD into Germany. Now, the cultivation, extraction, and purification of these cannabinoids, including the rare cannabinoid CBG, were all completed through AVCN's vertical integration in SMGH, and validate the company's innovation and leadership in natural rare cannabinoid production. Now, the products are part of the Oris trademark product portfolio that now includes feminized seeds and advanced formulations, as well as CBD, CBG, and THC API products. This is another massive accomplishment for our team in Colombia as we enter the largest market in the world for non-psychoactive cannabinoids with our proprietary CBG offering. As the cannabinoid-derived product sector continues to evolve, our Aris-branded portfolio continues to advance in order to cater to the needs of our cosmetics and pharmaceutical partners, which will require an innovative, credible, thoroughly tested, organic, sustainable, and economically sourced of input materials. Now, additionally, the support of TrueTrace, the Aris products will be provided with traceability and trackability all the way back to the seed through a secured blockchain system. Aris Azadian, the chief executive officer of AVCN, stated. Now, the Colombian Ministry of Justice and Law granted SMGH a supplementary cultivation quota to cultivate 12,264 psychoactive cannabis plants, and 11,587 plants will be destined to produce dried flower, which will then be used to manufacture psychoactive derivatives for commercial production for export. And the remaining 677 plants will be utilized for psychoactive derivatives for the purpose of research and development and pilot production of Avicana's RHO Phyto branded products in Colombia. Now, Lucas Nasiglia, the president of Avicana Latam, commented, "This achievement took years of characterization, evaluation, and planning, which finally allow Avicana to produce our THC products and export THC derivatives to our international partners. As one of the only companies permitted to produce THC commercially for the global market, we can focus on less competitive and high-margin products." Sort of following after a few of the other Colombian companies have also been getting their grants for export of microcannabinoids, mainly CBD and CBG. Again, the CBG market you're now starting to see develop a little bit. You're not seeing just Avicana, but a few companies have entered into this space. They are producing fairly high quality CBG products or isolates. And we haven't really seen any products come to the consumer side, so this is still in more the research and development phase. I don't know if there's enough consumer demand for any CBG products or enough consumer awareness of what CBG is and which particular market to send that towards. But there is demand for these next generation microcannabinoids, and that's really coming from a research development side. So obviously there's lots of companies partnering with Avicana to work on these next generation pharmaceutical or wellness products that are going to be using either CBD or CBG components in them. But I do think that this sort of, again, similarly to what I was talking about with Sugar Bud in the Canadian Health Canada backlog, you are continuing to see out of Colombia more and more sort of regulatory relaxation when it comes to exporting, when it comes to sending these products out. A lot of the Colombian companies, or even the subsidiaries based in Colombia, have all went through some pretty heavy due diligence with regards to their factories, facilities, with regards to their testing, working with TrueTrace technologies, things like that. So all of the products that are coming out of Colombia right now are actually really high grade, just due to Colombia's stringent regulations surrounding this industry so far. But now you're starting to see that as all these companies have followed through on their end, you're now starting to see the government follow through quite quickly with granting export licenses, with allowing these products to go into the international markets, as Colombia, again, is positioning itself quite well to be an international hub for microcannabinoids, as well as just general cannabinoid-based products in the international market. Price point, year-round growing conditions, as well as a very robust and well-trained local community have really made it accelerate quite rapidly. And again, looking at Chiron Life Sciences or Pharmacielo or any of the other base Colombian companies, you're seeing similar news releases from them as well, if not earlier from Avicana. So I do think this is going to continue to progress over the rest of the year. As I've mentioned before, I do think Colombia is going to be one of the main players in the international market, with Israel probably closely behind. It just depends on if Israel is able to build out their infrastructure and market fast enough, and also if they're allowed to get all their license and export agreements into the EU, which is their main sort of international target. Next, looking at THC Biomed International, who announced the following updates. THC Biomed announced it's received notice from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that it has allowed the patent application for THC's clone shipper constant illuminated tamper-resistant plant container. Now, this is a successful end to the patent application process, and the next step will be the issue notification letter to come from the USPTO, which THC expects to receive approximately 3 weeks prior to the official issuance date of the patent. Now, as noted in the title, the container provides the plant itself in a constant source of light and helps the plants do very well during shipping. And the container is also tamper resistant, which is important for shipping plants such as cannabis clones. Now, THC is also focused on product development and sales for Cannabis 2.0 with edibles and beverages, and has submitted the following new products to Health Canada for the 60-day notice period. So there's the THC Biomed's latest product, the THC Kiss Gummies, which are 2.5 milligrams of THC each and will contain a pack of 4, so 10 milligrams total. And the cannabis extract used in the same proprietary extraction system is that used in the THC Kiss beverage shot. They're also going to be working on the Kiss Water, which has been submitted to Health Canada. And THC Kiss Water is a refreshing beverage with a slight herbal taste, and each 220 milliliter beverage contains 3 milligrams of THC, as well as focusing on the THC chocolates, which have been formulated with the same cannabis extract used from the THC Kiss beverage shot and the THC Kiss gummies. And the extract is designed to be fast acting and uplifting and provide a realistic and great tasting alternative to smoking cannabis. So as far as the THC Kiss shots have been going, they've been selling quite well in most places where I've seen them. And in general, consumer feedback has been pretty good in that there's not a lot of shot options out on the market today. So a lot of the beverages that are out there are really trying to focus on having a pretty consistent taste and quality, but for some people, they're not enjoying the fact that it's a larger format beverage with a very low dosage. So to actually get any sort of effect from it, you have to drink that beverage fairly fast. So the shot option is a little bit more appealing as far as the dosing options available so far. And as far as fast acting and overall what the use of the extract is and everything, I do think that that's a smart play to continue along the lines of what has already been successful and just provide different formats. Obviously, they're getting these products out fairly quickly. So at least for the Cannabis 2.0 products, THC is continuing to do quite well. And again, supporting the idea that the industry is again removing some of its backlog, and you're starting to see these products get through the Health Canada assessment phase on time and hopefully come to market at the same pace. And lastly, looking at Canada House Wellness Group, who announced today that its wholly owned subsidiary Abamedics Corporation has received its amended sales license from Health Canada, allowing for the sale of cannabis oil, concentrates, topicals, and edible products produced from its facility in Pickering, Ontario. Now, the company also announced that ABBA has entered into agreement with Organic Extraction Technologies and is currently employing equipment and services sourced from OET to produce solventless cannabis rosin in the Pickering, Ontario facility. Now, the license amendment allows the company to further expand its existing product offerings to the medical and recreational consumer markets with internally produced oil, concentrate extracts, topicals, and edible products. And ABBA is currently generating full spectrum concentrates that will work closely with Canada House's own wholly owned subsidiary, Canada House Clinics, to expand its portfolio of products to best manage the complex physical and physiological conditions of the medical patient base. Receiving our Cannabis 2.0 sales license to allow for the sale of higher margin internally produced products represents another key milestone for Canada House's path to profitability, said Chris Churchill Smith, Canada House CEO. Cannabis oil, rosin, and edibles are in high demand, and we've been developing formulations to address the health and wellness needs specifically as it relates to our veteran patient base. And this license amendment will allow ABBA to catch an even greater share of the over $27 million per year of medical products purchased by CHC's patients. So one of the aspects there, again, supporting the idea of Health Canada granting this license quite quickly. And again, a lot of these companies that have been in limbo for a little while now starting to get products out there and starting to move forward with their next generation production. I do think them focusing on organic solventless products right now is one of those sort of weird concepts right now where there's not enough information and education in the consumer base to really have that make that much of a difference with your overall product demand. Although, again, when people are looking at any of the next generation products, so especially any sort of shatter or rosin or any of your oils or tinctures, everyone's still in high demand for those products. So having any product out there, it's most likely going to sell and most likely going to sell quite quickly. So there's really no downside to producing a next generation product right now within the Canadian market, just because, again, there still is a very limited amount of SKUs available. And until that changes dramatically, where you start having too much selection available, which I don't see happening for at least another year or so, based on the pace that most of these companies are bringing products to market. It makes good sense for any of these companies to be bringing something that is slightly different, but definitely focused on that next generation market, as again, all of those products are in massively high demand right now, and there still is a very low threshold for competition within that space. So I think this will be somewhat of a successful launch for them, but also on the other side, I do think that they focused on some areas. For instance, if this ends up pushing them into a much higher price margin, it might affect their overall sales and sort of consumer perception. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.